Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. I'm Nicole Hutchison. I'm the Director of Transfer here for the Virginia Community College System. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Emily. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Emily Muniz. I'm the Associate for Transfer and Talent Pathways at SHEV, and I work very closely with Nicole on all things Transfer Virginia, including these info sessions to get all of this great information out to our students and our advisors.
Fantastic. So Emily and I have been hosting this series of panels specifically for our private colleges. And the reason for that is that Transfer Virginia started with legislation in 2018, and that legislation required that the public colleges in Virginia, the public four-year colleges in Virginia, participate in certain aspects of transfer improvement, including the development of and acceptance of the passport and UCGS and associate degree for completion of general education requirements, the development and upkeep of the transfer portal, transfervirginia.org, and the development of transfer guides on the portal. And those were all things that were legislatively required of our public four-year colleges. But our private four-year colleges were invited to participate as well. And our private four-year colleges have been just amazing partners. They've been so participatory in the curriculum and course development process and in their interest in recruiting and helping transfer students with the transition from the community colleges to the four-year colleges. And I've just, over the time that I've been in this role, been incredibly impressed by their participation in all aspects of Transfer Virginia. But we have found, not surprisingly, that since so much of the focus for our community colleges and our community college advising and often our community college students has been on the large four-year public institutions in their backyard, a lot of our students and advisors are not very aware of the opportunity for transfer students at the private colleges around Virginia. So we wanted to make sure that our transfer advisors and our students were aware of some of these opportunities. And I've a little bit, not sneakily, but very intentionally not been talking a lot in the promotion of our series about which colleges were being represented on which days, because even in my travels around the state to work with community colleges and talk with advisors, I've found that even when community college is in an area with some private colleges, they might have really great relationships with those nearby private colleges, but they're not often looking at private colleges statewide. So they're not looking at private colleges that are in other parts of the state from where their community college is, which means that our students aren't finding out information about the private colleges that are not in their backyard as well. So I have been hoping, and it's been pretty successful, to get advisors from all over the state to our information sessions so that they can hear about colleges from all over the state. I'm very excited today to be joined by Shenandoah University and Hollins University. And we were also going to have Virginia Wesleyan, but I don't know that we have anyone from Virginia Wesleyan here today. Okay, so Emily and I have a series of questions, and we're going to take turns asking the questions about the private college experience specifically for transfer students from our community colleges. And I'm going to start, though, by asking first Sally to introduce herself and tell us just a little bit about what college you're from. You'll have opportunities to talk in much more depth, but if you could just give us a little preview of Shenandoah, that would be terrific.
Sure. So I am at Shenandoah University. I'm in my 15th year at Shenandoah, moved from faculty to advising. Shenandoah is, liberal arts infused. We hover around 2,000 undergraduate students and about 2,000 graduate programs. And we do have a large undergraduate population that intends to matriculate into health profession programs.
Fantastic, Sally. Thank you. And Maritza, will you tell us a bit about yourself and Hollins?
Yes, I'm Maritza. I am in the Office of Admission here. I'm our transfer coordinator. And Hollins is a private liberal arts school exclusively for women at the undergraduate level. So that is for anyone who lives and identifies as a woman. We do have some co-ed graduate programs, but for your students who would be applying, that would be for our women only. Our total undergraduate population is a little less than 800 students, which makes for small class sizes. Our average class size is 12 students. And a fun fact, last week we had Tinker Day, which is a fun tradition where students dress up, classes are canceled, they dress up in costumes, they hike a mountain together and eat donuts and cake and put on skits and sing songs.
Excellent. Thank you, Maritza. I happen to have seen some pictures of Tinker Day. So we're going to go back and forth with some questions, but we also really encourage you all in the audience to ask questions. You are welcome to put the questions into the chat, and as Sally and Maritza are answering our questions, our panel questions, they might go into the chat, but most of all, I'll probably have Emily and me read those questions at the end so that everybody can hear the answers to those questions. And then we'll have opportunity, I think, at the end for Q&A. So Emily, I'm going to turn.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Sally and Maritza, prospective transfer students often worry about the cost of attending a private college. How do you respond to that concern and let them know that, you know, this is within reason for them? And I guess, Sally, if you want to go first, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. So, we do a couple of things at Shenandoah that I think help students to mitigate the cost of a private institution. So one of the things that I would encourage students to do is be proactive with financial aid and seek opportunities to use lower cost options. So one of the things that we do at Shenandoah is we have a full January term and summer term offering. Those courses are offered at a special rate of $495 for 3 credit courses. So when we bring transfers in to our advising office, we actually talk to them about what they have left and how they could use those summer and January terms to reduce the time that they're either full-time at the university. We also we are very sensitive to the fact that these students have been careful with their money. And so we really take a lot of time with transfer evaluations to make sure that everything is coming in and applying to the degree they want versus offering them transfer credits. So I think we do a good job of recognizing that we are a private institution and really being proactive in helping students. And we do have transfer scholarships as well.
Thank you.
Great. And I would echo that sentiment and say, so Hollins, we find a lot of times that our students actually, particularly from Virginia, because there is generous aid from the Commonwealth, right? So the Virginia Tuition Assistance Grant, the 2-year transfer grant, those are fantastic options for students. So in light of that, and for our own scholarships, a lot of our students actually find that we are competitive, if not better priced than some of the public schools actually nearby. And so we always tell students, you won't know what your financial aid package will be until you apply. So apply to the schools you're interested in, submit the FAFSA, and then compare. Hollins guarantees at least $20,000 annually in merit scholarships to our transfer students, and that number can go up based on a student's portfolio. We also have a $2,000 scholarship for students who are members of Phi Theta Kappa. And I know for Virginia Western in particular, for the CCAP program, we've got a scholarship for that. And then we have scholarships for students if they visit campus, if they submit the FAFSA early, if they have an alumni referral or a legacy. And then we also have for students who are Girl Scouts, they could get an additional award if they've gotten their bronze, silver, or gold award, as well as students who are interested in science, music, math, or anything art or creative talent related. They can submit an additional supplemental application to get up to $2,000 extra for those. So we have a lot of other kind of additional if students put in the effort to do a small application, they can also get some bonus money added onto that too.
Thank you. I think that's one thing that's really important is, private institutions do have the ability to offer these unique scholarship opportunities where public schools may not be able to. So I think that's really important. So thank you.
I agree. And I want to underscore, just from a Transfer Virginia perspective, some of what Sally mentioned about the way that the private colleges will look really closely and be aware of how students are coming from the community college and how attentive they've been to the classes they've taken and the money they've already spent on their education. And a kind of behind the scenes example of that is that in my role as director of transfer, I'm creating curricula like majors or pre-majors on the community college side that we're implementing at all of the community colleges. And both Shenandoah and Hollins have worked closely with us. I've worked with their faculty to make sure that the classes that students are taking at the community college in preparation for a major, whether that major is dance or that major is chemistry, that the classes they've taken transfer to Hollins or Shenandoah and fulfill the major requirements that students would have taken in their first 2 years if they'd started at those institutions. So it's often not even that the four-year colleges are having to be creative in how they're assessing credits. It's that students at the community colleges can see what courses they can take that will transfer and fulfill those pre-major requirements. So thank you for those responses. I'd like to give both of you, and I'm going to start with Maritza this time, the opportunity to just, brag a little bit on an aspect of your college. So we'd like you to tell us about a major or academic program or two that you think might be particularly interesting or appealing to prospective transfer students. And I know you have many, but if you could zero in on one or two, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, I think in terms of our academic programs, I'll focus on psychology and business because those are our two most popular majors for transfer students. And I think that's a great opportunity for students. I see them a lot of times, we accept, we have a guaranteed admission agreement with BCCS if a student has a transferable associate with 2.5 or above. And we do accept gen eds from the associate degrees as well in full. So that's no matter what they're transferring in with, whatever that degree is, coming in with all those associate credits going towards their gen eds, they can get a jump start on their major classes. And so we find a lot of those students are excited about business and psychology. And those two programs in particular, I'll share a little bit about the experiential learning that they benefit from in that sense. So for both programs, students have guaranteed internships, even our transfer students. So they're able to, in whatever field, presumably be a field that they are majoring in, but during our January term, we're on a 414 calendar system. Students can do an internship locally or even internationally. A lot of our students, we do have some satellite locations in major cities throughout the US. They can do an internship there that our career services will help facilitate. And then we also have research opportunities. Even our business students can do a research opportunity. Even our theater students do research opportunities. And so that's something where they can collaborate with faculty, even co-author as an undergraduate, which provides really unique opportunities when they're going into graduate school. So I just encourage those students, for psychology and business, those programs are stellar for transfer students in particular, because they have a robust offering that allows students to get out on a quicker timeline. But even as they're getting out on that quick timeline, they're still able to make use of the different experiential learning opportunities that we offer.
Thank you, Maritza. Sally.
So I'm going to go a different way, and I'm going to talk about two that I think, people might not be as familiar with. I think they're underrated. One of them is our media and comm degree. And one of the reasons why I picked that for transfer is because it's very broad, and looking what our students are able to do with that degree is very broad. It is a smaller major within the College of Arts and Sciences, so they don't even need to have any of their media and comm courses done before they get here. Similar to that is our public health. And I think public health is one of the most underrated degrees at any university, and ours has grown significantly. And we do have a master's in public health program that even transfers can apply for early admission into our master's in public health. Again, public health is a degree in which a student doesn't have to have anything coming in and they can finish the degree. In fact, most of our students who do public health here at Shenandoah do not start as first years in public health. They're generally core studies students or biology students, or even some of our nursing students that decide that's not what they want to do, and they transfer into that public health program. It's also a robust enough program, but leaves a lot of room for being able to take prerequisites for the master's and physician assistant. We've had students go into PT from public health or double major. So those are two majors that probably we don't currently have a lot of transfers in, and I think that's a shame because I think they're both outstanding and kind of a hidden gem here at Shenandoah.
Thank you. Before Emily asks the next question, I want to add again, because I've worked so closely with both Hollins and Shenandoah, something related to what you all are talking about, and something that I think those of us here whose backgrounds are very much in the large public four-year colleges, like my undergraduate, graduate degrees, and my teaching experience were all in large four-year colleges. And so one of the things that I was unaware of before working closely with small liberal arts colleges is how much more opportunity and encouragement of exploration in the first 2 years are available to students. And so, you know, on the four-year university, large four-year university side, the refrain so often is, it's your first semester, what's your major? Have you figured out your major? You need to be on that track now, because if you don't get on that track now, you're going to be here extra years, you're going to pay extra money. And there's almost often an opposite messaging in so many majors with the small liberal arts colleges of do some exploration, figure out what you are passionate about, and take a broad range of courses, and then you can really focus in the second half of your time there. So Sally, you kind of referenced that with the two majors that you mentioned. But I'm thinking even in my work recently, creating common curricula in dance and art, and how looking at how Hollins mapped it, Hollins was much more like explore what you're passionate about in those first 2 years, take the art classes that you're drawn to, and we'll make them work. So just an extra little reinforcement of what you're describing. And Emily, I'm going to turn it over to you for the next question.
Well, I would just say I had a similar experience to you, Nicole, where I attended large universities, and every time I attend one of these things, I'm like, man, I wish I had known about these colleges and universities with all these great opportunities. So I'm really glad that we're doing this so that our students, know that these options are available. Okay, so in addition to academics, and Maritza, you talked about this a little bit in your previous answer, but we'd love to hear about some extracurricular opportunities for transfer students so that they can really get engaged and just welcomed to your institutions. Sally, if you want to kick us off with that one.
Sure. So we do have a transfer connection program, which is probably the one that most of our transfer students are drawn to. Again, we have a fairly small transfer population. Those are hosted once a month, and they do all kind of different things together. So that's the traditional one. And just a plug for something that I'm really proud about with Shenandoah is we have traditional mentoring pathways. One of them is our first year seminar mentorship. We actually allow transfer students to be first year seminar mentors. And so I think that's unique. They haven't had that opportunity to take a first year seminar, but they're able to do that. We also have Thrive Guides, which are upperclassmen mentors, and we have transfer students. And it's really powerful to have another transfer student as a mentor for you. And so I'm really proud of how inclusive Shenandoah has been on things that aren't typically seen as opportunities for transfers.
Great. And I think we're gonna have an opportunity later to talk about transition, right, for transfer students. So I'll save a little bit about my transfer seminar for that time. But something I did want to highlight now is our study abroad program, because that's something for our 2-year students who are only here for 2 years, they can still take advantage of that either during the January term or during a full semester. And I have worked with transfer students who are doing a full semester abroad, and all of their financial aid at Hollins will travel with them when they go abroad. Something else, I'm just proud of seeing my transfer students who've been here and who've acclimated. A lot of them are leaders of clubs. We have over 30 clubs and organizations on campus. And then our student government is one of the most top 10 active in the country. And so my transfer students will go to that. They will become leaders in that. And that's been really cool to see them integrate into the community and have that leadership voice of their own as well.
And I would love to spend a little bit more time here talking about the extracurricular programs at your institution. And you've mentioned a couple of them, but extracurricular programs that you'd encourage students to consider, how they'd benefit from them. You mentioned study abroad, and I think many of our transfer students, while at the community college, are not thinking of that as a potential opportunity for them. So maybe also aren't having the opportunity to hear about what the benefits of study abroad are. So if you could delve in a little bit more, and Maritza, I'm going to start with you since you started there, and then go to Sally, about extracurricular programs that you think they would benefit from and how they would access those as transfer students.
Yeah, certainly. So for study abroad, I think that's something that for a transfer student who is fixated, understandably so, on time to degree, right? Getting out as quickly as possible, that might seem like a hurdle, but actually we work with all of the programs that we work with are accredited for those credits to transfer back for their major. So we're not going to send them somewhere where those credits are just for fun, right? They're going to be taking classes that give them progress towards their degree. And so we have options for students who want that language immersion experience. One of our most popular programs is in Paris. We also have a popular program in London, but we also have them in many different continents around the world. And so it also is fixated on what the student's major interest is. So for our students who are STEM interested, particularly in environmental science, they're going to be doing field research actually in different countries. We've got those in the Galapagos, we've got that in Vietnam and Cambodia, various different places around the world. We've got I think it's 20 different sites that we partner with directly. And then beyond that, we could always partner with another university that has a program to send a student there. And what I've heard from our students who study abroad is that it is really a life-changing experience. And I mean, even if you think yourself about going abroad, the cost associated with that, they're going just for the cost of a plane ticket. And we even have scholarships for that. So there's no other time in your life when you're going to get to go on such an amazing opportunity for that experience abroad at a low cost. And while they're there, they're studying with students from other countries too. So that is kind of broadening their worldview. And they're learning how to function on their own in a different country. And a lot of our transfer students too, right, they may have been living with parents for a couple of years trying to save up money. And so they come maybe to Hollins, maybe they're living on campus, but going abroad, living in a big city or a small town, maybe doing a homestay, those are skills that really put them outside of their comfort zone. And I think going forward, when they're ready to do that next step and take a career on, they are more ambitious. They're braver. They're not as concerned about what ifs because they've been thrown out there. Maybe they didn't even speak the language in the country where they went. So I think that gives them a lot of confidence. And it's just exciting to see them come back. And then they have a seminar. They have a seminar that prepares them before they go abroad. And they have one when they come back to reflect on that and help them kind of reacclimate to the US. And so that's always exciting to hear about those experiences. And then some of our students will go on to do masters abroad or to actually do jobs abroad. So it oftentimes just makes me wish I could go back to college and go on all of their trips.
As someone who used to lead study abroad programs, you are speaking, so to speak, my language there, Maritza. Sally, tell us about some of the extracurricular programs that transfer students can benefit from and how they would access those.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep on that theme of, because I think Maritza's right that these students haven't had a lot of opportunity maybe to study abroad. And we have the traditional study abroad, but we actually have 3 programs that are varying levels, and they're embedded within the academic program, some of them. So we have really unique, we were funded to have global citizenship projects. So one of our missions at Shenandoah is to create global citizens. Those are spring break trips that are entirely free to the student. So it's this big deal. Students, faculty, and staff apply, and then usually 70 are chosen, and we have a big convocation where they find out where they're going. And they're usually 7 to 10 days. We also have gel trips, which are embedded in the curriculum. So it was funny as Maritza was talking, I went on a gel trip to South Korea, and we took 30 students to volunteer at the Olympics, Winter Olympics in 2018. And you're asking what happens, and Maritza said it, right? As a mid-40-year-old, I learned more about myself and became more comfortable and learned, what that looks like to embed yourself in a culture. And then lastly, over the past 4 years, we've had COIL, which is an initiative that allows for collaborative online learning. So for instance, we had students here in public health who were partnered with students in Jordan working on a hunger project. So students don't have to do any travel. They're working with students from another country, but they can travel if they want to. So that's a place where, a student who wants to be embedded in culture, but isn't necessarily ready to leave the US can learn to live or learn to learn amongst their peers in other institutions. So I do think whatever transfer students do, one of the things that we've talked to them is that car campus home kind of, and I think just if all of they do is, car, campus, hang around a little bit and go home, they're going to find opportunities in which they're going to be able to grow as students.
All right, thank you both so much. Those sound like really wonderful opportunities. Lastly, if you all could just talk about how your institution helps transfer students adjust to your institution, whether that's with, the orientations that you all kind of touched on a little bit. Housing, is that required? Do you all help with housing off campus? Advising, those sorts of things. And Maritza, if we could start with you.
Sure, yeah. So I'll just say I work with students from their initial interest in Hollins all the way through to when they enroll and they're new students here. So that's something that I think has really helped give students a touch point to have a main point of contact who they know is familiar with their story and everything it took to get them here and is there as a resource when they start. And so this is our second year that we offered a transfer seminar in the fall. It is a pass-fail, 1 credit optional class for students who overwhelmingly students want to participate in this seminar because it's resource-based and it's connections-based. It's helping transfer students get to know other transfer students on campus so they can have that built-in community, but also learning what our resources are on campus. And so I always tell them our transfer students don't need to know how to do college. They have thrived in college, that's why they're here. They just need to know the resources that Hollins offers. And so we connect them with those resources. And then also I just serve as that kind of one-stop shop where if they have an issue that they're struggling with, they can ask me and I'll get them that answer. And with that seminar, we have what's called an SSL, a student success leader. That's like a first-year mentor. And that has been a transfer student as well. And so they work with them during orientation. They have an orientation team leader who's also been a transfer student who works students through that orientation week. But then that SSL continues with them the full first semester. And so they're helping them with academic concerns, social concerns. They plan social events for them. If there's a concern that I'm not seeing as the seminar professor, they'll bring that to me and then I can alert the appropriate authorities on campus to make sure that students getting the support that they need. And that's just really helped create a cohesive community among our students. We also have transfer student lunches every month where students can come together and get to know each other. And then I'll say that we also really encourage students to participate in these other extracurriculars and clubs, right? So research shows that if students have at least 3 touch points on campus, they're more likely to succeed and thrive. And so that's part of what this whole orientation process for transfers is. So we do encourage students to go forward with athletics. We do have transfer students participate in athletics. We have Division III athletics here. We have 8 different teams. We're in the ODAC conference. And so if a student even who, hasn't played since high school, let us know. We'll put them in touch with the coach. That's a great way to get them connected. And then also getting them to go to clubs, speakers, guest speakers, social events on campus. And then we pair them with an advisor over the summer. So they have that initial advising relationship and they can continue. But then if a student decides, maybe they do want to shift their major, because that is an option for our students, even if they're a transfer student, they then can select their own advisor. So we try to give them multiple people on campus, multiple opportunities to connect so that they really feel like it's their community too.
So for us, we do have a transfer team in admissions that would be the first point of contact for students. And I think that team is up to 4. One of the things, we have a transfer task force on campus and we've had it for about 2 years. It's made up of financial aid, admissions, student affairs, academic affairs. And one of the things that we've been working on is, what do our students want, our transfer students? So we're starting to do more transfer focus groups. So some of the things that have come out of that, we do have residence hall that is dedicated. It is actually a hall that is dedicated to transfer students. We have the transfer connection. We have a separate transfer orientation, which for years we didn't have. But again, in my world, one of the things that we've done is we took on transfer evaluation out of our registrar's office and moved it into academic advising. And then as resources became available, we actually, our person who does transfer evaluation is an academic advising specialist for transfers. And so they are the one person that can help a student throughout their whole years. Students also get faculty advisors, but it was really important for us to recognize that advising looks different for transfer students, and they needed somebody there that could help them, look through, is this a gen ed that I think I took? How do I get it reevaluated? The other thing is, I think that transfer academic advising specialist helps students, again, save money. So if there's stuff that they can still take at the community college or they can take through January term, since they're focused on transfer advising, they're really kind of holistically looking at each of the transfer students. So that's some of the things we're doing. I will say that advising specialist, each of our advising specialists has a school. That advising specialist is the liaison with admissions. And so that team between, or that transfer between admissions and advising is really, there is no transition. Kyle is going to our fairs at Northern Virginia and Laurel Ridge and working with admissions to do on the spot eval so that students can know what they have coming in.
So I'm going to put you both on the spot and ask a question that I didn't give you a preview of, but that I think is a really valuable question to hear the answer to, because I was thinking about my experience as a parent, and when my kids were looking at colleges and started looking at or considering the private liberal arts colleges around Virginia. And one of my kids' concerns coming from the city of Richmond was that the private colleges were going to be wealthy and white, and that was not the environment that they were looking for. Can I ask each of you to respond to that? What does your college look like? Would a transfer student, because our transfer students are really diverse, they're coming from all over the state. They tend most frequently not to be wealthy, but they're socioeconomically, racially, ethnically diverse. How would it be for them on your campus? And Sally, I'll let you start this one.
Yeah, thanks for that one. So I think, sorry, you got me, right? I think like most institutions, it looks very white from the outside, right? I mean, most institutions are going to have that look. We actually have the highest number of Latinese students coming in this year that we've ever had. Winchester itself is a very diverse community. I'll just say that you can look at a map and find where Winchester is. It doesn't look like the rest of Northwestern Virginia. And we are really working. We have a Black student union. We have a Black alumni network, which only started 3 years ago and has just flourished. And so I think our students who have gone before, the incoming transfer students, have really worked to be able to we've always had those students, but to wave their flag and say, here we are. We're even looking, which, again, for a small school like Shenandoah, we're looking at things like, land acknowledgements. Our students are driving us to be more diverse and look at that. So I'm really proud of I will say it's on the students' power that these things have happened. And then we do a survey every year in which we kind of look at demographics and comparison to how students are, what needs they have, right? And so one of the things that we found in our student survey was that our Latinx or Latinese students actually screen at a little bit higher rate for ADHD. And so thinking through what that means to be more universally designed to make sure that we're addressing the needs of all of our learners, not just and I will say white learners, because I think the myth about private school being higher socioeconomic has long been gone, right? These are students who want to play sports, they want to do this, they are scraping together to be able to be here. So I hope that was a good enough answer when you surprised it. That's off the cuff is not my strong suit.
I appreciate your addressing that. I know that I've seen the data from both of your schools, and so I certainly know that it is a myth, but I don't know that people are aware of that myth not being accurate. Maritza.
Sure, yeah. So It's an exciting time, I think, to be in higher ed, and particularly, I know at our institutions as well, to see the transformation and how we become more welcoming in terms of the communities that feel like they can access our spaces. And I think that really speaks to the environment that we're creating here to allow those students to feel comfortable here. So at Hollins, a third of our students identify as students of color. I think over 40% of our first year class and continuing students as well are Pell eligible. And this year, our incoming class, almost, I think half of them were actually first generation college students. So if you put all of those together, because there is some intersection there, but there's not always intersection there, that represents a huge portion of our university that fits into one of these different groups. And so something that we've tried to do, and so certainly that speaks to our scholarships that we're able to provide to help students make that accessible. But we've also developed some orientation programs as well as continuing programs that help support students who maybe, you know, for first gen, limited income, students of color, to allow them to have somebody who's their advocate on campus and also community time and space. And so we have a large program called HU Connect. And so that's for our first generation limited income BIPOC populations. We also have an international student population, if you have any of those students coming as well. And so that's something where they are able to come to campus. They have a pre-orientation, they can come to campus early. And again, because so many of our students identify with these different populations, I think most of our students between athletics and pre-orientation had moved in before move-in day this year. So that gives them a great opportunity to get to see campus and feel more comfortable in this space. Maybe they've never been in a college space before. We hear from many of our students that they don't know anyone in their family, you know, who's gone to college, and they felt kind of isolated going through this process. So we want them to be here to feel like it's their space. And then while they're here on campus, they have different mentors. They have peer mentors who work with them, as well as professional staff who check in with them weekly, and they have these touch bases. They have what they call family time with the different groups. And so that's something that we really hope will help students feel more welcome here, but also that they can advocate for what they need. And that's something we're really grateful for. I think Sally really hit on this too, that the students play a huge role in this. And that's something we're excited to see expand, you know, because as we become more diverse as a campus in many different arenas, we want to make sure that we're fitting the needs of our students. And so we're grateful for that. And certainly I know for our students who transfer from VCCS, they fit within that population as well. And I think that's something that they're surprised by and excited by, to see that there's a community here that looks like them and that has shared similar struggles.
Sally, did you want to?
Yeah, I did. And as I was talking or thinking about like self-identified kind of, I think one of the surprising things that we've seen with our surveys is that more students than are traditionally defined as first generation consider themselves first generation. But two of the populations that you didn't mention that I think we're, you know, starting to wrap our hands around, one is commuter students. We have a lot of, we have a lot of transfer students that are also commuter students. And so we have a commuter lounge, we have some transfer connection that's just for them. And then the other one is, and I hate this term, so Nicole, if you have a better one, let me know, non-traditional students who are returning, students who have been dental hygiene, hygienists for years and who want to go to physician assistant school. We have a couple of initiatives to work with those learners to be able to balance work and school. We have an online consortium that we allow students to take classes through. And so I think, out of the populations that we're serving right now, the two that really interest me are the ones that are self-defined as whatever and haven't been traditionally defined. And then those commuter and non-traditional students as we work with them.
Sally, I don't have a better term. A non-traditional and adult and returning and older, I don't like any of them. But I am very fond of those student groups, and I'm glad that they're well represented on campus. So we have some time for questions from the audience. If the audience has any questions that they'd like to either put into the chat or unmute and ask, we would welcome those questions. While we're waiting on the questions, Maritza and Sally, if I could ask you to put into the chat contact information. If a student or an advisor wants to take the first step, and of course, I will tell them to go to the Transfer Virginia portal because you both have a presence on the Transfer Virginia portal. But if they would feel most comfortable, understandably, reaching out to an individual or having a specific email address, who should they connect with at Hollins and Shenandoah in order to find out more or to get additional contact? Any questions from our audience? So well, since I'm not seeing any questions, oh, I see a question there. And then I have a question for you all if we have time from Lawana. Many dual enrollment students work to complete a large majority of gen ed courses while in high school through approved Passport and Transfer Virginia courses. Thank you for bringing up the Passport and the UCGS. Are there specific stipulations or limitations that high school dual enrollment students should be made aware of when applying for admission or inquiring about scholarships?
So we treat those dual enrollment students regardless of how many credits they have coming in as first year students, and they're eligible for first year scholarships. And then we do take the Passport and the certificate, the general studies certificate. The Passport counts for, a portion of the general education's, their certificate completely counts for all of their general ed. So we're proud of that. And it doesn't matter if they do it before matriculating, or after.
Yeah, I think we probably have a similar process here where they apply as first year students, which I think that streamlines the process for them. They apply as a traditional applicant, and then they can during admission submit that dual enrollment transcript, right? Oftentimes those are on their high school transcripts, so we don't need it for admission purposes, but if they want a dual enrollment credit evaluation, do submit that to us. And then we have that evaluated. We, in the last year, upped the number of credits that is accepted for dual enrollment students. It's now the same as transfer students coming from a community college. So it's 64 credits from a community college. And those students with, Passport, UCGS, a full associate, who are first year students will have the same number of credits eligible to transfer in. And we did just have last week too, our faculty approved, we have a new gen ed at Hollins, which is exciting. So that's been in the works. And part of that was figuring out how Passport, UCGS, and the associate were going to transfer in. And right, so that still will allow first year students to transfer in all of their gen eds and the same number for Passport and UCGS, with the exception of those few core requirements required for first year students, which is really to their benefit, right? They're still younger students. They're still in their first time as a full-time college student. So that first year seminar, and we have a couple of those sequences that happen that first year. So it's really just requiring them to do those first year traditional experiences. And they are still eligible, right, for first year scholarships and can live in first year housing. But because they're coming in with more credits, they can accelerate their degree timeline if that is what they want.
Great. We have a related question about foreign languages. Liberal arts are known for requiring foreign languages. Can you speak to your university's requirement on foreign language?
Yeah, I can start with that one. So for your students who are transferring with an associate's degree, that is a transferable associate, and we have a list that is very similar to the transferable associate for the GAA, that all of their gen eds are complete, and the language requirement is a gen ed. And so if they're coming in with that transferable associate, they do not have to take that. They certainly can if they want to continue that. Otherwise, students, if it's a student who comes in with Passport or UCGS, we require students to take a full 2 semesters of college level language. And so if they took 1 semester at VCCS, they could finish a semester here. They could take a new language if they wanted. If they took a class in high school, it's been a while, they can test into a certain level here at Hollins. And then we also do accept AP, IB credits as well, and dual enrollment. So if your students took any dual enrollment language, if they earned a C or above and they took 2 semesters, that will also satisfy the requirement.
So we have, ours are done by undergraduate school. So our College of Arts and Sciences, excluding education and applied technology, have a competency in a second language, as well as some of our Bachelor of Arts in the Conservatory. And there are several ways that students can meet this. Since it's a competency in a second language, if the student was born or educated outside of the country, if they're a heritage speaker, we waive that because, again, it's about that second language. If they have 4 years of the same language in high school, we will take unofficial transcripts for that because, again, we know that transfer students might have a hard time going back and getting that transcript. We do have placement. 1 semester abroad in a non-English speaking country also meets that. There is a lot of information about that requirement in our catalog, but I would just say that there are so many different ways for students to meet that here, and just hearing from Hollins that I think that gets a lot of playtime, but in the end, in my 15 years of experience, it hasn't been an obstacle. It has not been an obstacle for our transfer students. Again, I think because ours is competency-based, our mission is driven by being global citizens. It's really important to our mission that students have some cultural competency. So,
I echo Emily that these are great questions. So one thing that neither of you mentioned, and it wasn't a direct question from us, but I think you both should mention it because we have a couple more minutes. I would love for you to describe where your campuses are, because I've been on both your campuses, and you both do have really stunningly beautiful campuses, and it seems a shame not to sort of advertise that part while you have the opportunity here.
yeah, so when I tell people that my school is in Winchester and we're named Shenandoah, they have no idea where we are. So oftentimes I tell them that we sit on top of Shenandoah National Park. If you haven't been to the campus at Shenandoah in a little bit, we have grown so much here. We have lots of green spaces on campus. We have some outdoor spaces that existed after COVID. This is my personal way of telling you how much I love it here and how beautiful it is here. I am from South Carolina. It is cold in the winter here, yet I've been here for 15 years. And part of that is our students, and part of it is how lovely our campus is. It's just one of the prettiest that I've ever been to. Winchester itself is, I know some other schools have some town and gown tension. Winchester is very welcoming to our students. It's a safe campus. They can walk to the downtown area. I think it's some of our international students, we have to coach them on where to go to the grocery store, right? But we do have an international grocery store here. So I think it has a lot to offer arts-wise too.
And we are in Roanoke, Virginia, and we sit, in the Blue Ridge Mountains in the Roanoke Valley. And so I mentioned last week we had Tinker Day. So we actually on campus, we have only one entrance to campus, which a lot of families I think appreciate in terms of our safety of our campus. We have 3 natural barriers. So we have a nature preserve, we have a river, and then we also have a mountain behind us. And so that Tinker Mountain, we have a private route that people who own that property allow us to hike each year, right, for Tinker Day. And so that's just something, you hike up to the top of that summit and you can just see all of Roanoke and the surrounding areas. And we are known for the Triple Crown too in Roanoke, if you're an outdoorsy person and you know anything about hiking. So we have McAfee's Knob, we have Dragon's Tooth, Tinker Cliffs, as well as Tinker Mountain, Sharp Top. There's a lot, Peaks of Otter are right around here. So there's plenty to do outside if you are an outdoorsy person or your students are. But even if you're not, we can drive on the Blue Ridge Parkway. This is the prettiest time of year to be around this area. I'll tell you, when I drive into work every day, I'm just, I drive in and see the mountains, and it's beautiful. And I'll tell you too, that on our campus, it's a historic, beautiful old campus. I've heard from multiple students that the place where we have most students park, depending on what event they're coming for, it's by our library. And to get to our library, you have to crest this hill that will show you the full view of campus. And I know when I first started working here, that first time I went up there, it's just breathtaking. And so going and getting to see that, and then walking through that space and knowing that you're in that, little oasis every day, I think it really fills our students with a sense of calm. They have access to these green spaces right outside here if they want to go on walks in the woods. We have Carvin's Cove right around the bend too. Plenty of mountain biking trails, kayaking as well. But then for our students who are not outdoorsy, we still have plenty to do in downtown Roanoke. And we have a number of colleges nearby too. If they have friends who go to those colleges, they're not isolated. They can still go and make those friendships or meet new college students at other schools as well. And we have a shuttle service that runs downtown. So there's plenty to do, whether they're interested in kind of more of an arts and urban culture, or if they are interested in enjoying the natural beauty that we offer.
Thank you both for allowing me to sort of live outdoors vicariously on this first definite day of fall here. Well, I want to say thank you to both of you for just doing a fabulous job of representing both of your institutions, which you've probably all heard. I have a soft spot for both of them. They both just offer fantastic opportunities for our transfer students. I'm really appreciative of them as transfer partners. So thank you, Sally. Thank you, Maritza, for coming today. And thank you to everybody in the audience for asking those fantastic questions. And those of you for dressing up, thank you for doing that. We've recorded this, so we'll be sharing out the recording. Please feel free to pass it on to other transfer advisors or faculty advisors who you think might be interested in sharing some of this information with their students. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Halloween.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.